Welcome to the Exergaming Files. My name is Brett Young.
My name is Richard Coshott. Together we represent the cutting edge of a global phenomenon.
I'm an Aussie, he's a POM, and we're going to talk to you about the wonderful world of Exergaming.
It's episode 3, and not many people thought we'd make it through to episode 3. So that's good that we're here. Also, we've got some feedback from the previous shows. The first piece of feedback is from B-Ray, who's a member of the Exergame network. And we like to take ideas from people from time to time.
All the time.
Yes, that's right. And B-Ray has said that our podcasts are too long. They should on average be 15 minutes. So, in that case, that's it for episode 3. Thanks for listening.
That's good. Yeah. Was that your idea, Rich, or somebody else's on 10?
No, I copied that from somebody else.
Yeah, I thought so. It is.
So the second part of the feedback we've had is that it's been growing through episode 1 and episode 2. And it's a recurring theme, is that actually people are quite sick of our voices, to be honest. That's the feedback.
It's not that hard to believe.
Yes, I know, it's incredible. But what we need to do is put an American on the show, I think, because at least we'll be able to understand their accent. So, without further ado,
I'm excited.
You know who's coming next.
I'm excited. I've got goosebumps. I'm so excited.
Let me introduce to you our very special guest star. He's the Zavix Dash champion. He's the Exergaming evangelist, none other than Dr. Ernie Medina.
The Exergaming evangelist.
And basically, what we've got, Ernie, and thanks very much for joining us.
No problem.
Yeah, we've got a topic of the week that normally comes up on the podcast. Now, Brett and I have run out of things to talk about that people are interested in
already.
That's my. And so everybody says, well, why can't you be more like Ernie? He's far more interesting than you
two.
That's true.
I don't know. I don't go do skydiving stuff, so I don't know, man. You're living the James Bond life there, man.
Well, I've got a few ideas. As I've been first and nobody can nominate me for a fundraising challenge, I've got a few ideas. Now, my idea is that Brett does a scuba dive in a shark cage.
I actually wouldn't mind doing that, but
yeah,
we have to find something for Ernie to do.
No, I've already thought of that.
Well, you did.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Ernie's king of the mountain on his mountain bike, but I don't know I've ever seen Ernie do rock climbing.
I've just done it on walls, but not outside.
Exactly.
Really?
So, I could wear my ninja uniform while I'm rock climbing.
Oh, nobody would see you. No, the video evidence would just be this wall. It wouldn't work.
Do you realise, Ernie, that Richard has started a precedent here for the Exergaming fraternity all over the world to start doing these type of events now. So yours may well be rock climbing in a ninja suit. No, I'd like to say I really want to see that, but obviously we won't see you because you're in a ninja suit. And I have to do the shark cage. So I think we've set a precedent here.
Has to be.
I like that, actually. That'd be sort of cool.
On a death-defying overhang without any ropes. I think that's great.
We don't want to kill Ernie. Just remember that. It's the last thing. Don't want to kill Ernie.
Well, actually, guys, I mean, I've kind of missed out on something important here because, as I said, this segment is called Topic of the Week. And last week we had Iris introduce Topic of the Week. So what we want is somebody with an interesting accent to introduce Topic of the Week. So I think I found somebody.
I wonder who this will be.
You wonder who this will be. So
I wonder.
Another interesting accent from around the world.
Intriguing.
Hey boys, let's do the topic of the week.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh my goodness, I think I know who that is.
You think you know who that is? Now remember, company rules, first names only.
Can't say. Don't mention it, Ernie. We'll have to veto you out if you do that. Does anyone... Ernie, do you think you know who it is?
I don't... It sounded vaguely familiar, but I don't know who that is.
Do you want to hear it again?
Yeah, do it one more time.
Hey boys, let's do the topic of the week.
Yeah, I know who it is.
It's clearly.
I know who it is. I know who it is.
Don't say it, Ernie. Don't say it.
Don't
Keep
say
those sealed.
Okay.
So, thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Ernie Medina, otherwise known as the Chief Exergaming Evangelist.
Indeed.
And you can't laugh, Ernie, because I think you made that up yourself, didn't you?
No, I didn't add the chief on there. I didn't add the chief. I think it's either you or Steven added the chief on there, but I didn't add the chief on.
No, that's right. So
I don't want to get any credit for that.
Yeah, that's true. So, what made you come up with the concept of an exergaming evangelist that we all now follow?
Oh, well, it actually sprouted from the physical activity evangelist that I was doing before the Exergaming evangelist came about. So it was just a natural segue from that. That's how it started, basically, was, just always thinking up of crazy, fun things.
Can I take you even further back? Because Richard's known you longer than I have, and I'm just curious how you actually got into Exergaming to start with.
Well, I mean, the very first one was in, actually, let me see here. Oh, it was in the American College of Sports Medicine Conference in 1998. It was in Orlando, Florida. And I have the bag here from that conference, and that was... went to that conference in Orlando, and as a side trip, I went and visited this new medical facility that was still being built in Celebration Center. And a friend of mine had connections there, and so we got a tour there, and they were touring us around this medical facility, and it had a whole, not only did it have all the latest state-of-the-art stuff, but it also had a gym inside. So, we're looking at this gym, and I thought, this is really cool, man, having a gym here in this medical facility. And then they had this one room that was pitch black, and there was a kid in there playing a video game, and it was a Tracer. And I had never seen anything like that before. And so that was my very first taste of Exergaming, and I found out what that company was and, who made it. And, that started me on the journey.
So what's your day job in relation to this? Because a lot of people listening on the call won't necessarily know what let's call it your day job.
Yeah, my day, the one that pays the bills, right?
Yeah, the one that pays the bills, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, my day job, and it's connected because my day job is, I graduated from grad school in 93 from Loma Linda University with my doctorate and my master's, my doctorate in public health, focusing on preventive care. And so my day job I got here through an internship I did here was at a medical clinic. We have about now, at the time we had like only 70 physicians. Now I think we have close to 200. But it was an outpatient clinic, and so I basically work here in the health education department, working with patients who need to lose weight, who need to reverse their, control their diabetes, any of the lifestyle-related diseases, and I also do quit smoking and stress management. So exercise, obviously, is a big component in any of those kinds of things. And so that's what I try to do is to see, okay, how can I find how Exergaming can address their obstacles, and then encourage them to try to give it a try.
And so, do you find that people are fairly open to those sorts of ideas when you're suggesting them?
Sure, yeah, because I share with them how we use it in our kids' classes, our family fit classes. Now we have a lot more research to share with them. In the beginning, 10, 15 years ago, there was no research. So if another doctor would ask me, hey, so what research has been done? I said, well, nothing yet. Now we have a journal, So, I mean, it's a lot easier nowadays because there's a lot more research out there. A lot more people are doing research in it, not from physical therapy to PE to, other types of researchers. And also so there's a lot more tools to share with them and resources to share with them why Exergaming is a very viable intervention to get them to be more physically active. So
it's interesting that you mention Games for Health Journal, and also there is the Games for Health conference in Boston, because you're on the editorial board for the Games for Health Journal, and you can't deny that you've been incredibly influential, if not pivotal, in Games for Health Boston. I know this because there's a YouTube video which I will put on this podcast.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Of
It's one of my favourites. I watch it every night before I go to bed.
Is that the one? Is that you watch it every night to put you to sleep?
It's awesome.
It's Ernie's journey in Games for Health 2008 and something. I will find it and I will put it on this podcast. So how did you yourself become such a pivotal part of Games for Health in both the conference and the journal?
Man, I know if somebody had told me that I would be doing all that, I would have said, yeah, right. Because I don't know. It's I don't necessarily like being up front per se, as far as like in the limelight, so to speak. I mean, I don't really like that. Even though I do it and I can do it. I mean, I've spoken at conferences and things and I can do it, but I don't like just being up front just for the sake of being up front. How it ends up happening is I just like, but I'm an extrovert and I like people and I like making relationships and making friends in that sense. And so, just getting to know Beth. I mean, I remember meeting Ben way back at E3. This was, again, in the early stages of doing this. We were at this place called the Education Arcade, which was the sort of like a subsession of E3, where they sort of lumped all the non-gaming entertainment, people in. Yeah. And so usually that's where you had your educational software, which is like a curse word to software makers, is, if you add the word educational on it. And so, but that's where all this stuff was, and Ben was there, and I actually met him for the first. I think he was presenting something on diabetes and a software on diabetes, and so I was talking about that. So this was way before Games for Health ever existed. So just making contacts and making friends with people, and then eventually I met Beth, and and just I don't know, just I think that's sort of how it did. So I didn't like try to do it. I just was like always talking to people afterwards, asking questions at every conference I go to. Session, I was always going to the Q&A at the end and standing up in front of the microphone and asking them, well, have you ever heard of how using video games can increase physical activity? And they would look at me, the people on the panel, and they'd look at me like as if it was from Mars. But it was interesting because after I sat down, people would find me afterwards, say, hey, I heard you ask that question, and are you doing anything? And this was before I was involved in it at all. It just it was just an idea. And so that's how just talking and making relationships. Right now I've met so many cool people in the industry in this field, and it sort of happened by accident in a sense.
Certainly the go-to guy, I think, and it's good that we have this video to prove this. So I will definitely put this on the podcast. Put that in the links. Yeah,
it was fun. I had a good time. And
Ernie, you have to do more of that, because one of the things that I've always found one of the things that actually brought me into Exergaming after initially discovering it in Europe was listening to some of the conversations that you'd had and that video. And one of the things I've always found about yourself is your passion for it. So you've got this inherent passion for what you do. And I'm sure it's not just Exergaming, it's probably across the board. And that passion is contagious. So you need to do more of those videos. So that kind of brings me to a question I've got for you. What are you doing now? Because we know your history. It's been intrinsic with Exergaming. But is there any project you're working on now? Is there something that's got your passion burning?
Yeah, there's actually a couple. Exergaming now, I mean, I don't want to say I feel like a grandfather in it and all, but, like you said, it's fun being sort of at the cutting edge or beginning of something and meeting the same people who are also at the cutting edge and at the beginning. Barbara Chamberlain, and Steven and a lot of these guys, we've been, they've been at it, like I have, from their different perspectives and their different worlds and their different approaches, and then we've all connected. So I feel that, okay, that's there's a lot of people now, a lot of new faces. I think it's great, and I felt really bad. I mean, it was the first Games for Health that I missed this last year after I've been to every single one of them, and and so now I've sort of shifted a little bit, and in Exergaming, there's two things that I'm really sort of trying to work on and sort of push. Is that one is the whole NAGL concept, and I announced it, or we sort of kicked it off a little bit, or at least presented the idea at the Games for Health conference 2 years ago.
I'll just interrupt there.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
NAGL is the
National Active Gaming League.
Okay.
Yeah, National Active Gaming League, and I know Richard, that we should make it the International Active Gaming League, so IAGL.
Absolutely.
So I totally agree. But that whole concept, because just as we were talking about on this one thing from Canada, right, the physical activity thing, and their physical activity recommendations. I hear that kind of thing all the time, especially with some of the research that's been out there. And I was like, I know that we need something that could provide some kind of structure and some kind of goal setting. And I really believe that the National Active Gaming League or something like that could do that, because I've seen that happen in our own sites and in other locations where whenever we announce the tournament, the kids would just get all excited. They'd start practicing at home and at the facility. And then when we had the tournament, the energy level just went through the roof.
It's a grand scheme. So that's something that obviously will take some time to get up and about.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say that's a present. Now, if we think about the future, Ernie. I love the future. Now, Ernie, what's going to happen in the next 10 years? What can we possibly imagine Exergaming and active gaming can achieve in the next 10 years? Now, I want you to take the gloves off here, Ernie. There are no restrictions technically. What would you like to see? What could you possibly imagine could be done with this genre?
Well, what I'd like to see in 10 years is something having like the holodeck. That's what I've always dreamed, is having like the holodeck. And the Kinect is starting to get in that sort of direction, without having to wear or hold anything kind of thing. But the holodeck is always my dream. I'm a big Star Trek fan, so I've always loved the holodeck, which is what the Tracer sort of captured my mind when we were in that big black room with the one wall.
Yeah.
The screen was the size of the wall. It wasn't just a little TV monitor.
Oh, Ernie, I'm with you on the holodeck.
It was a huge screen. So that's what came to mind. Well, I thought holodeck is here. That was back in '98. So that's what I want. The other thing I would like to see is Exergaming and active gaming and the technology embedded within healthcare, because we're all moving towards electronic medical records, right? I mean, all medical systems are moving towards that. There's a U.S. mandate that all doctors and clinics have to be doing that. We're in our clinic here. We're about 3/4 of the way rolling out electronic medical records within our facility system. We have about 8 different clinic sites. So it's spreading, and so I could see in the future, playing, multiple, MMO type games, with gadgets sensors that we might be wearing, and then they're part of a bigger game that then but of course some of the biometrics are then being transmitted to my EMR, so that way then my doctor, my preventive care specialist, whoever, can be getting updates on, okay, am I meeting my recommended amounts of physical activity, whatever, and eventually maybe having sensors even for eating, so my nutrition can be part of the gameplay, so that way, instead of just imaginary getting power-ups or getting nutrition packs, the real foods that I'm eating are going to all play into the actual game. So if I'm eating healthy foods and getting enough sleep and drinking enough water, my character in my avatar in the game is going to have much more energy than somebody who's just eating on junk food. So it'll all tie in versus just virtually doing it. So, and then it'll all be reported to my EMR, which then we can see how that connects with my biometrics, my cholesterol, blood pressure, weight, percent body fat, et cetera. And then we could sort of see the correlations there. So that's what I see, sort of everything sort of interconnected eventually. But to the user, to the patient, to the consumer, it's just, hey, I'm just doing this because it's fun, because it'll help me in my game that I'm doing with Richard and Brett, around the world. And the more veggies I eat, the stronger I get, so I can run faster than Brett, or something like that, whatever. Beat him in tennis.
So, Ernie, you're saying, make it pervasive technology, make it in everything we do, that we can connect the dots, but still make it fun.
Exactly.
Because as soon as we take away the fun factor, we're screwed.
Oh, yeah. That's the advantage that Exergaming has over some of these other things. There's all kinds of gadgets now, pedometers, accelerometers, sensors, and they are trying to gamify it and all. But in the end, if it's just a sensor, sensors are not that fun. So, yeah, that's what I'd like to see in the next 10 years.
Well, you notice I've been very quiet. That's because I've been writing all of this down, and I'm actually going to submit my patent tomorrow. So, being the only manufacturer,
I love the holodeck.
That's a fantastic insight into the future. And you know what? Maybe if this podcast is truly sustainable, maybe in 10 years' time we can look back on that and replay that. see and invite you back on the show and see how right you were.
Oh, that was 10 years.
Or how wrong.
Or how wrong, yeah, absolutely.
That's in 2023. I'll put it in my calendar.
Put that in your Google Calendar, Ernie.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in my Google Calendar. Yeah, after we get on this call, I'll reserve this date and time.
Yeah, that's a busy week for me. I'd better check.
We'll revisit this. We will revisit this
10 years?
2022.
And with that, we conclude the section topic of the week. And I don't know, for me, Brett, this has been the best topic of the week out of all the episodes, all three of them.
Oh, my. Oh, wow.
That was fantastic.
Well, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and our very first guest, and who other than Dr. Ernie Medina, the Exergaming evangelist, even though he's not self-proclaimed chief Exergaming evangelist. Many do think of him this way as our inaugural guest on the Exergaming Files. So thank you very much, Ernie, for joining us, and we will have you back.
Well, hey, and thanks to you guys. I mean, you guys with 10 and everything, you guys are the two main drivers of it. I know everybody's busy, but you guys, I'm just always, hats off to you guys for sticking in there and keeping things going and keeping us connected. So I think, kudos to you too. So I appreciate all you guys are doing.
Okay, so big thanks to Ernie there, and we've got to move on. We've got to move on because time is of the essence.
We've got a rant. We've got a rant.
We have. Nobody says it better than this.
Now it's time for the Exergamers rant.
Oh, that's just cute.
It is ridiculously cute, isn't it?
I just want to wrap that up and hug it, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I always feel quite bad to rant now. I'm in the wrong frame of mind, but...
No, let's do it, Rich. Let's rant.
Well, you know what's really got my blood boiling? And it's the same week in, week out. Yeah, most of us collect our news from the internet these days, being tech-savvy people and stuff like that, and unable to turn pages in newspapers and have attention spans that are not long enough to let us watch the news on TV. So it all streams in via the internet, and one of the things that I find incredibly frustrating is the ability for a research study or a news story to be published where the headline is not representative of the full picture of the story, and mainstream media pick up the headline and run with it. And essentially, if you've written press releases before, and I know you have, then you know that essentially there's the majority of the audience will read the title.
Yep.
Something like 60% of the audience will read the summary paragraph, and then by that time people have lost interest. They've got bored and they've gone and done something else. So it really is that headline and first paragraph that the only message. What people are doing with their press releases, and unbelievably this is from things like universities and well-respected organisations that are involved in health and obviously infringe on somewhat in the Exergaming space in their realm of influence. They throw out a headline like "Wee's no good for your health," and they have an opening paragraph that says, in a study of so many people, it was found that Wii Fit didn't increase activity levels, and then it goes on, and then later on further in the press release it starts talking about how none of that's actually true, and that's just a headline that they've pulled out just to get their story published in their organisation.
And why do they do that, Rich? Why do they do that?
Basically for media exposure, really. People want to read something new about things, and there's very little new going on in the research world, so just pick an inappropriate title for press.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Rich, negative rings more positive than positive, so they like to put a negative twist on the headline. I've actually got a couple of choice words or choice phrases I like to fire at these press releases. I like to call them sensationalist, unburdened by accuracy, the content is plagiarized, and the heading is bastardized. So basically they hold little to no resemblance to anything that an original study might have been trying to get across. And it is very annoying. Well, Rich, of course, this isn't the only genre that has this happen to it. But, online media is notorious for being sensationalist and inaccurate and unburdened by the truth. So we're not the only ones. It's just in our genre, this is a new genre, and we're trying to get the public the correct, more or less the correct information as much as possible, not the sensationalist rubbish that just keeps dribbling out of press releases.
So the key message has got to be, if you want to know anything about Exergaming, go to 10's wiki.
Correct. Well, we'll put the links to the 10 wiki. Please have a look at that and get the facts.
Now, Ernie, being a fantastic advocate and evangelist of Exergaming, we've got to give him the screen time, basically. So I think we're going to have to leave that the rant on mainstream media. We could go on for several episodes. In fact, maybe several series on this. We really shouldn't, because let's just go to the 10 wiki and let's save a bit more space for Ernie in this podcast, I think.
Yep, definitely.
So, do you know what's coming next, Brett?
It wouldn't be joke of the day, would it, Richard?
Well, I wouldn't have said it quite like that, but...
Hey, are you ready for the Exergaming joke of the day?
I would prefer that in every instance. Well, it's funny you should say that, because that voice has actually got the segment correct, but today it will have nothing to do with Exergaming.
Oh,
because there is some popular belief that we should actually make the jokes funny. So, I know. I thought I'd give it a go. Now, here's the joke. I'm going to get straight to it, Rich. There's no point in mincing around this one. This joke involves a talking dog. So, I'll get straight to it. There is a fella that's interested in getting a dog, and he thought he'd do the noble thing of go through the RSPCAs and just look for notices in the newspaper for people who can't support their dog anymore. Now, he finds a notice in the paper, rings it up, and the fellow at the other end is very amenable, says, look, I think you should come around and see the dog. The dog is lovely, but you really do need to see the dog. So this guy is a little bit intrigued by the advertising, because the guy says this dog has a special ability. So he travels around, takes a car, travels around to the fellow's house and has a quick conversation with him. And the guy basically says, look, there's nothing much I can tell you, but what you really do need to do is go out and present yourself to the dog, and that the situation will take care of itself. There's really, the best way to do it is to be confronted by the dog. And the fellow's a bit worried about this. It sounds intriguing, but the dog isn't harmful, he says. Just go out to the backyard and the rest will take care of itself. So he goes out the back door, and there's a dog sitting in the middle of the backyard. It's only a small dog, a nondescript dog. And he walks up to the dog and, "G'day, fella, how are you?" And the dog looks back and says, "Good, mate, how are you?" And, you can imagine, this guy is startled off his thing. He does it again. He goes, "Did you just talk to me then? Did you say, 'G'day, mate'?" He said, yeah, no problem. So you're probably a bit startled by that, but, there's no point mincing around it. I'm a talking dog. And the guy is just, he can imagine how astonished he'd be. He's just, he can barely believe his ears. So he just said, "Well, how does this happen?" He said, "Look, I can't tell you, but what I can tell you is that's, I've had an intriguing life, and this is just one of those things. To me, of course, I can talk, so I know about it, but far away, what do you want to know?" So the guy says, well, tell me about yourself. Tell me about the talking dog. He said, "Well, I've had a colourful life. Basically, because I'm a talking dog, I have that talent. I've been put into situations that most dogs wouldn't be put into, and I was working in the CIA for quite some time, and I was being put into mobsters' homes. As obviously you can imagine, I could get the lowdown on what's happening. I can listen to conversations that nobody could listen to, and I'd report back to CIA agencies and tell them what's happening. And of course, the FBI found out about it, and the FBI, I did a stint with them. I travelled internationally. I went to MI5 in the UK. He said, "No, I've done that for the last 10 years, and I've really had enough. I'm back in Australia where I belong, and I'm retiring." And of course, the guy listening to this is like, this is just unbelievable. It's like, obviously it's happening. I've heard 5 minutes of this dog talking, and this dog is astonishing. And he says, "Look, excuse me, I've just got to go back and talk to your master, and I'll be back soon." So he goes back inside. And he looks at the guy and goes, "Why are you selling this dog?" He said, "This dog is absolutely incredible. It's worked and travelled all over the world. It's worked for the CIA, the FBI, the MI5, and all these astonishing places. And you want to sell the dog?" And the owner goes, "Listen, mate, That dog is a damn liar. It's never left the backyard. It's a slow burner, that one. It'll keep catching up with you for the next day or two. I guarantee. Anyone listening to that joke, if you didn't get it, it's funny, believe me. Rich's laughter isn't being forced. It's a slow burn. It will keep kicking at you. Anyway, absolutely nothing to do with Exergaming. I do apologise about that. But,
don't apologise, mate. That was a great joke.
It's not a bad joke.
At least it was broadcastable.
It was. And we, by the third episode, we finally got one that we can actually play to people.
Oh, dear.
So, that's a winner. Oh, dear. I love telling that joke.
As you know, on this episode, in order to give Ernie his airtime, we're going to move straight along now, and we have a couple of suggestions for what in the colonial language is called.
And last up, it's the Exergaming Cool Wall.
Yeah.
Well, saying colonial language, I may have given people a clue.
Talking about international products and solutions that are out there for Exergaming. We've got two on the list, Rich.
One of these I'm very familiar with, but the other one is madparker.com recurse. What?
Yeah, it's another app. I like Exergaming apps because they're cheap.
Ah, okay, right, cheap. Okay.
Look, Mad Parker, I don't understand the Mad Parker, but the link is a bit odd. But the app is called Recurse. Yep. Basically, it's one or two player, uses the iPad particularly, uses the camera technology in that, and it's similar to some of the camera technologies used in games like the Sony iToy in the past, where you can wave your arms around. This one you've got to dodge the red bricks, and you've got to stay in the green. So it's a fundamentally simple game, which I kind of like for a quick burst of energy.
Okay.
So this one isn't taxing, and it's an app download. It's again something that the App Store is easily available. We'll have the link up again, but it apparently works really well. So this is just something you could have a couple of mates, have a bit of fun, no brainer. But I think those kind of simple, quick fire games are the best ones for things like an app download and for the iPad or the iPhone.
Well, on this one, I mean, I've not heard of it. I think I'm going to have to hand it over to you, mate, and put this on the wall.
Well, look,
where you think it should go?
Yeah, I'll put it on cool, mainly because there aren't that many apps out there that are doing pure Exergaming.
Yeah.
So it's not the most fun game I can imagine you can have, but it does work, and the feedback has been good. So Pocket Gamer gave it 8 out of 10, the App Champ 6 out of 6. It's had some pretty good reviews, so I give it on cool until we get more information about it back from users.
So let me sum up and say that madparker.com recurse, Brett is going to side with mainstream media for the placement on the cool wall. Well, no problems at all there. I can't see any conflict.
Dancing with the devil, Rich. I'm dancing with the...
Well, I'm going to let you put it on in cool, and I'll go and check this out. I need to get my.
We'll see. All those people with their iPads or iPhones, just get back to us. Let us know what you think.
Right. So I'm completely clueless about that, which means I couldn't shout you down or drag the score up. So
as much as you want to.
I'm feeling quite hurt now.
Well, you can have a go with the next one.
Well, let's move on to Battle Tag by Ubisoft. I just love things like this, but I understand you actually have a bit more experience with this than I do.
At our showcase centre, we use it quite regularly, and it's an 8-player system. It was done as a development by Ubisoft to try laser tag, but they had a different slant on it. They wanted to take first-person shooter games and put it into reality. So they use things like power-ups, which you can pick up and gain extra energy or extra health or extra ammo. So they're like power-ups in a game like Quake or so forth. Any power-up that you would run over, these ones you pick up and swipe under your gun. And it's lightweight, it's easy to do. The game runs off a hub, which is a piece of hardware that plugs into your laptop or even your netbook. This adaptions now will even run off an iPhone or an Android phone. And it's the hub distributes the signal in 300 meter radius, so everyone can play within a 300 meter radius, and basically got a portable, lightweight laser tag system that replicates a first-person shooter. So you can have free frag, free for all. You can have team frag. You can have capture the flag. You can have the standard first-person shooter scenarios that we've seen with computer games for decades now. So this replicates the whole idea of a first-person shooter in the real world, and it's awesome. But Ubisoft did it as a test. They did the manufacturing. They set up the game. What they did was made a mistake. They overpriced it and they promoted it incorrectly, and as a result, it died. So what I'm suggesting is people get out there and buy a defunct product. If people look out for it, it is available, but it is coming towards the end of its availability because the hardware is limited. But there will be people obviously playing it and releasing it again. It doesn't suit them for whatever reason. But look out for it because you will get a good price on it. And it's worth the $20 or $30 it is to get a starter system. And you honestly, you'll play with it, you realise, this is fantastic because it's for adults and kids. It's primarily for kids because the vests are a little bit smaller and they're very lightweight. But you can play it indoors, you can play it outdoors. So if you see Battle Tag by Ubisoft advertised anywhere, check the price. If you can get it for $20 or $30, buy it. It's a super cool one, Rich. It's a super cool.
I wouldn't doubt that, actually. I think we have an accord. Super cool it is. Right, well, I'm afraid that's all we have time for episode 3. It's...
What an episode, Rich. Behalf of myself, Rich, and from Down Under, I'd like to sign off now and thank everyone for listening in, and I'll be talking to them next week. Bye for now.
See you later.
See ya.